In this video, we're going to talk about what it means for two events to be independent. So in probability, when we say that two events are independent, that means that the probability of one event occurring does not affect the probability of the other event. In statistics, you're going to be looking for some keywords or some context to determine whether things are independent or dependent. Typically, when we're drawing things like cards out of a deck or marbles out of a jar, independent events will be conducted with replacement. And what that means is I draw the card, I write down what I drew, and then I put the card back in the deck and shuffle. Meaning when I go to draw my second card, I'm drawing from a fresh deck of 52, the same deck I drew the first card from. So what I drew the first time can't affect what I drew the second, because I'm drawing from a fresh deck every time. Dependent happens without replacement. That means I draw the card and I keep it in my hand so that when I go to draw my next card, I'm drawing from 51 cards instead of 52. And that will change the probability of that second card. Those are not the only two examples. We're going to read some examples and determine whether they are independent or dependent based on how they behave in the real world. So let's go ahead and start with our first example. It says tossing a coin and drawing a card from a deck. Because those two items are separate items, what happens with the coin does not affect what happens with the deck. And the same is true in reverse. What I draw from the deck of cards doesn't affect the coin. So these are independent. For our second example, we're drawing a ball from a jar, not replacing it, and then drawing a second ball. And we see that key phrase, not replacing it, without replacement. So that tells me these draws are dependent. When I take the first one out, I affect the probability of the second because now I'm drawing from less balls on the second draw. Next one, a real world example, getting a raise in salary and purchasing a new car. So we have to think about this. Does knowing that a person got a raise in salary affect the probability that they purchase a new car? And my instinct says these guys would likely be dependent. A person is more likely to purchase a new car after they've gotten a raise than before. So knowing a person got a raise increases the likelihood that that person bought a new car. That doesn't mean that every person who purchases a new car recently got a raise. I had to purchase a new car a couple years ago because my last one died and I hadn't gotten a raise in a while. So it's not that knowing that they did one thing guarantees that they did the other, but that knowing they did one thing changes the probability of the other. Meaning if I know they got a raise in salary, does that influence what I know about them purchasing a car? And the answer is yes, they're more likely to purchase a car after they've gotten a raise. Next one, drawing a card from a deck of cards, replacing it, shuffling the deck, and then drawing another card. And I see our famous word replace. So that tells me this is drawing with replacement, and we know that that's independent. First draw and second draw are both from a fresh deck. Last one is another real-world example, and it says, a father being left-handed and a daughter being left-handed, dependent or independent. I happen to know that left-handedness has a genetic component. So if the father is left-handed, it is more likely that he will have a child that is left-handed. So these events are dependent. So you'll notice some of those were keywords. Yeah. Some of these we determined by determining the fact that the events or the items we were using were separate and couldn't affect each other. Some of these depended on our knowledge of the real world. These are the more common in statistics class, so make sure you're keeping an eye out for replacement or without replacement. And much like our last video, understanding whether an event is dependent or independent affects how we do math with it. So in another video later this week, we'll see what math looks like with dependent versus independent events. If you have any questions, feel free to send me an email or drop by Thursday office hours. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.